Dr. Grandin, do we make a mistake when we put human characteristics onto our animals?
Well, you've got to look at things the way a dog or a horse or cow would look at something. Cattle are, they have wide-angle vision, and things that move suddenly scare them, because they're designed to always be scanning for predators. You've got to look at what are the kind of built-in behaviors that, that the animal has. What's important to the cow, not what would be important to us. Now, being a visual thinker's helped me in animal behavior because since they don't have verbal language, they have to store their memories as pictures, as audio clips, as smell whiffs. It's sensory-based information in their brain. There's no other way their brain can store the information. There's been some research to show that that's definitely true. Now, when it comes to emotions, basic emotional systems like fear, separation anxiety, like when you take mom and baby away, the urge to novelty seek, and rage, those are the same in all mammals. And the circuits have been fully mapped, but most of that research is the same. Most of that research has stayed over in the neuroscience literature. It hasn't shown up in the veterinary literature or the animal science literature, but to say that animals don't have emotions is like just stupid. There's probably 500 journal articles, scientific refereed papers that show that. But on the other hand, there's differences between us and them. We have a huge, giant computer sitting up here, way more computer power than they've got in our brain. That's one of the biggest differences.
How has your autism, how has it helped you relate to animals?
Well, being a total visual thinker enables me to get away from language. I find that people that are really totally verbal, where I've found where the students, when I ask about the church steeple, it's just a stick figure like that, they often have a hard time understanding animals. They have a hard time understanding a world that's not verbal language. Now, animals are very sensitive to tone of voice. High-pitched sounds tend to be scary. Other types of sounds tend to be calming. They are very, very sensitive to that, but they're picking up on tone of voice, not on words.
Mm-hmm. And did that help in the design of the cattle handling facilities?
Well, my visual thinking helped in the design. So the very first work that I did on cattle handling back in the early 70s, and nobody else was working on cattle handling back then. I mean, now you've got a lot of people going out doing low-stress handling workshops. I think that's just absolutely wonderful. But in the early 70s, I got down in the chutes to see what cattle was seeing. At this feed yard, they'd balk at a shadow. Another feed yard, they were balking at a chain hanging down. Somewhere else, there'd be a coat hanging on something. There'd be a car going by. Nobody even thought to look at those things before. And when I first started looking at what the cattle see, what scares cattle when they go through a handling facility, people thought it was just absolutely crazy. I mean, back when I started, that was cutting edge. I mean, now it's taught in all animal science classes, but it certainly wasn't 35 years ago.
Mm-hmm. But much of your design has been incorporated all across the United States.
Well, about half the cattle when they go to a large beef slaughter plant are handled in a piece of equipment I designed called the center track restrainer system. And about half the cattle in the U.S. and Canada go through that system when they go to a slaughter plant.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about a word you just used. When you called it a slaughter plant, we've tried to kind of get away from that. We talk about processing cattle, but you use the word slaughter. Why is that?
And I use the word slaughter in Hollywood, too. I think we need to stop covering up what we do. And if you want to sanitize it a bit, I call it a meat plant or a processing plant, but certainly going to call it a harvest facility. And I've taken a lot of general public people through the plant. And of course, one of the things they want to know, do cattle know if they're going to get slaughtered? I had to answer that question early in my career. So I'd go over to the Swift plant and I'd watch the cattle go up the chute. I'd go down a feed yard, watch them go up the veterinary chute. They behaved the same way in both places. And our Swift plant only had a 5'6" fence. Oh, let me tell you, those Arizona striped Brahma cows, they could have jumped out of that thing, no problem at all. And you take people there and you have them watch the cattle go up the ramp, and they can see that it can be done really quietly, and they go, oh, that's not so bad. I think we need to be showing it. Yes, there's been bad stuff that's gone on. And there's been some really horrible undercover videos. This latest one of the pitchforks on the dairy cows, that's just horrendous. That kind of bad stuff, that's bad management that causes, that sort of bad things. There's been a lot of improvements. 10 years ago, I worked with McDonald's on implementing their animal welfare audits for slaughter plants, and it resulted in a lot of improvements. And a lot of people don't know anything about it. The industry, when it gets attacked, tends to hide behind the stockade, and that's a gigantic mistake. I think we need to be putting some video up. 2 years ago, I put videos up on YouTube of stunning pigs and stunning cattle showing how that plant works. Some people in the industry thought that was really bad. And when I first put it up, I got some very, very obscene comments I obviously can't repeat. I think in agriculture, we need to be showing what we do. I'm very proud of the things I've designed and done.
And while you may well have gotten some negative responses, you've also gotten some very positive responses. Even PETA has recognized you.
Well, and then I get positive responses. I mean, you can't have civil discourse on a website if you've got somebody dropping F-bombs on it. That's what I call it, you know. And some people might think that's free speech. I think we need to be having civil discussion. Now, if they put on there that they don't agree with me, fine. I don't take that down. They have the right to go on one of my YouTube things, say they don't agree with me. But let's keep it civil. Let's have a civil discussion.
And you do believe that the slaughter process can be humane?
Yes. And when it's done right, I've actually looked at some of the stress data. And, you know, cattle going up a chute, there's going to be some stress. The amount of stress they get, maybe in terms of getting scared at the slaughterhouse and going in a veterinary chute, it's about the same. There's stress there, but it's about the same as a veterinary chute.
All right. When we return, we'll tell you why Temple has gone Hollywood.